Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie and today I'm going to be doing my September wrap-up. I'm going to apologize now because I probably won't look at the camera very often, and if I do it's probably going to be pretty awkward because I don't like public speaking. I actually have a really big fear of public speaking, so we're just going to get that out of the way right now. So in September I read 6 books, which is not as many as I wanted to read because near the end of the month I got a slump. I was supposed to read a book for a book club and I couldn't finish it, so I'm a little disappointed about that because it's a book I really wanted to finish. So I will probably try to finish it at a later date, but 6 is still a pretty decent number for me. I usually read anywhere between 6 and 10 books a month, so I'm quite happy with the 6 that I did read because they were all 4 to 5 star reads. So the first book I read this month was These Monstrous Ties by K.V. Rose. This is the first book in a 4-book series, I believe. This book is a very, very dark romance. It has a lot of trigger warnings such as violence, sexual content, abuse, drug and alcohol use. So just be aware of those triggers when you go into this. The author even has a note at the beginning of the book saying that there's content warnings, so just be aware of that if you do plan on reading this one. So this book is about Sid and on Halloween night, and she ends up meeting a man named Lucifer, and he convinces her to come with him and they go to a party together. I can't say a lot because of spoilers, but just it got really weird. But this book jumps from the present time to the past tense in alternating chapters, so you don't get the whole story all at once about what happened to Sid on Halloween night. We just get pieces as we go. So it's a bit unreliable at times because we don't know the full story. At the end of the night on Halloween, Lucifer disappears and Sid wakes up in a field by herself, and a lot of assumptions were made, so she ends up hating him and she wants revenge. So the present day time is Sid planning on revenge, on how to get back at him, as well as living with her brother who is really abusive towards her. And that's where a lot of the triggers come from, is the relationship between Sid and her brother. I really enjoyed this book for what it was, and it was, as I said, very dark. But I did read the second book this month as well. Okay, so the second book I read this month was The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. And I saw this book everywhere for years, and it's a very intimidating book because it is huge. It's an Own Voices Muslim fantasy novel. So yes, it is intimidating, but I'm really glad I read it because I loved this story. It was beautiful. So in this book we have 2 points of views. One being a woman named Nahari. She's a healer from Cairo, and she's just learning about her powers. She works as a street merchant, telling fortunes, and one night she accidentally summons a type of jinn. So Narhi and Dara, the jinn warrior that she summons, they are forced to flee Cairo, and it's their journey to get to Daevabad, where it is like a city that is safe for people that have these types of magic. And the second point of view is the Daevabad prince named Ali, and I really liked his chapters. He's really selfless and involved in the city, and he doesn't want to see the city suffer. He wants to help them. He invests money into a cause because the city believes that only purebloods deserve like anything, and that the non-pure bloods, they're basically trash. This is such a complex and intricate story, but I really, really loved it, and I think I'm going to read Kingdom of Copper in November. Then the third book I read this month was Pray for Scars by K.V. Rose, which is the direct sequel to These Monstrous Ties. So this book starts exactly where These Monstrous Ties finish, so I can't tell you about the plot too much because that would be giving away everything that happened at the end of the book. So I was a little disappointed in this one because of all the secret reveals in the first one. I was expecting a lot more for this one, and I was let down. I wanted something to happen that didn't happen, and something else happened with Sid that I really wasn't okay with, but I can't talk about it because it would be ruining the entire book. But just so you know, the second one is not as good, but it's still enjoyable. And I think I will be reading the third one, which isn't a story connected to Sid and Lucifer. The third one follows a side character, and that would be his story. So I think Sid and Lucifer are still there, but they are going to be the side characters and not the main characters in the third book. Then the fourth book I read this month was From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This book is so good. Jennifer writes such great characters, and I love her so much. It's been such a long time since I've read a book by her, but this one, if you read anything that I ever tell you to read, I highly suggest you read this book. It is now one of my all-time favorite books. This book is about a girl named Poppy, who in her kingdom is classified as the maiden. It cannot be touched, she cannot be looked upon, she's not allowed to have any friends. So basically her life is not her own life to live. She's not allowed to do anything. So one night Poppy decides she is going to sneak out of the castle, and she's going to go to a little bar, which is basically where men and women have rendezvous. And some stuff goes down, and she ends up having a special encounter with Hawk, who is one of the palace guards. Soon after this encounter, Poppy starts to question and discover secrets about her kingdom, and she questions her role that she plays in everything that's happening. And while all of this is happening, there's these strange murders that start happening in the palace. There's a servant they find, and she's completely drained of blood, and as investigations start going on, and the mystery of who done it and what's really happening. I found the beginning was a little slow, but once you hit the 200 mark, then the book really picks up, and it's like non-stop action from there on out till the end of the book. And the ending, it was everything. The last line in particular makes you want to pick up the second book immediately, and I didn't have the second book. I had to wait for it to come in the mail, and I'm only just starting to read it now, but it is so good. So you all need to read this book. And then I read Wolf Song by TJ Klune, and this is another book that everyone needs to read right now. This book is just everything. This book has so much good in it, and it will melt your heart. It is so good. But this book has been on my TBR for so long, and I just kept putting it off and putting it off because I just thought it was just your average werewolf book, but it's not. It's really not. It's so much more than that. So when I saw that Robin from Robbie Reads Books was going to do a group read on Instagram, I thought that why not read it now? And I'm so glad that I did read it, because this book is now going to be one of my all-time favorite books. Seriously, this book is so good. It has everything. It has found family, it has angsty relationships, it has incredible friendships. So good. The whole premise of Wolf Song is about family and how your pack is your family. So this book follows a teenage boy named Ox, and he lives in a small town. He works at a garage with a family friend, and one day he's walking home and he stumbles across a group of people, and he's immediately drawn to this little boy who is so excited and eccentric and cannot stop talking to Ox, and he's just drawn to this child. So later on, Ox finds out that this boy hasn't talked to anybody in 2 years until that day in the clearing where he met him. So this little boy is named Joe, and he is part of the Bennett family. And this family is everything. This family is so special because they're werewolves. And Ox is immediately drawn into their pack, even though he's human, because this little boy wants Ox around, and the family immediately becomes attached to him as well, because the special thing about these werewolves is that they can sense their feelings in color, which is so cool, because if you're happy, you see like colors of green because it's like it's soothing, and when you're upset, it's blue, and you're sad, and it's so special, this book. And it'll tear your heart out at the same time because so much happens in this book. And I'm going to be reading Ravensong in October because I need to know what happens. So the last book I've read in September was Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Monroe Garcia. This book has been everywhere all summer. Everyone's been either raving about it or talking about how strange it is. So I love horror, everything horror, just give me it, and I couldn't wait to read this book, but I wanted to wait until the fall because I felt like that was the best time to read this book. So this book is set in 1950s Mexico, where we have Naomi, and she receives an unsettling letter from her cousin Catalina, describing how she thinks that her husband is trying to poison her and that the house is out to get her, needs Naomi to come and save her. And so Naomi's father makes a deal with her, saying if she goes to this manor and checks up on her cousin, that he will let her continue on with schooling and go to university and pursue her career. So Naomi ends up going to the manor and traveling to see her cousin. I can't properly describe the plot of this because I don't want to give too much away. I didn't know very much about this book going into it, other than it was a Gothic novel set in Mexico, which I believe was the best way to go into this novel, because not knowing what was going to happen or much about the plot, I think really added to the experience of reading it. There are some very graphic scenes in this novel, and some of them were just straight up weird. The more you go into the book, closer to the end, there's some really strange scenes. I don't want to say what they were because you need to read it for yourself to understand. But other than that, I really, really highly recommend this book. It was really good. And it's a pretty short book, so you can get through it pretty quickly. So those were all the books I read in September. And I thank you for watching my first video where I'm actually talking to y'all. And I hope it wasn't too terrible. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!